Hello, Sci 10. This weekend I had two great questions that I thought I made make a video on. So I had a question on number signage for vectors such as velocity and acceleration. Like, how did I get the minus minus, or how did I have my number as negative something, right? So I'll show you what I mean in a second here, right? So, for example, this question here on question 17. So it was that highway question, right? About highway 35 and highway 116. So this was part of the 183 and 84. Somewhere asking me like, why is it negative 16? Oh, sorry, why is it negative 116? And why did I mine it? What is this plus 35 kilometers? So I'll explain that to you now. Right? So when it comes to number signs for vectors, we gotta go back to what we did early on the unit, and that's this chart here. Right? So this chart here tells me that when it's forward, up, right, east, and north, that's when it's positive. When it's backwards, down, left, west, and south, then it's negative. So if you reread that question, it was telling me that it was 35 kilometers south and 116 kilometers south. So that means that I turned my 116 into negative 116 because it's going in the negative direction. And I turned my 35 kilometers to negative 35 because it's going in the negative direction. So we look back to our formula, right? Our expanded formula was like that, right? So what I did was essentially plug in my numbers here, right? So this one here, this is a negative 116. That minus sign was originally part of this, so I just added on the minus 35 kilometers, right? Because this is also going south, so this becomes negative 35 kilometers. And if you think back to our junior high math, minus and negative makes this a positive. So that's why over here I put two vertical lines across them to tell myself it's a plus a positive. So that's how I got to this number. That's how I got to the math that's how I got to the math to get to the negative 90 kilometers per hour, right? So in the future, if you see anything going south, west, down, and to the left, just convert that into negative before you plug into your formula, right? Likewise for if I'm trying to find acceleration, right? So to find acceleration, we often have to do this, right? So that means that if my question says 0.89 meters per second south, I got to convert it to negative 0.89 meters per second before plugging into my formula. If my question says 7.25 meters per second east, then I can just leave it as 7.25 meters per second east. So this brings along to the second question I got. So they were asking like why sometimes I don't have direction for some of my vectors. And that's because sometimes physicists get lazy, right? Sometimes it's assumed, right? So for example, if my answer was if my acceleration was this, sometimes physicists just automatically assume that if you leave it as positive, then it's somewhere in the positive direction, right? It's either going to east or going to the north, right? It's the same idea in math as, for example, if your answer was like 45.2, it's assumed that it's positive 45.2. Only when it's negative, then you put the negative sign there, right? So the sign is oftentimes for anything positive, it's assumed that it's there, right? So one important note is that although some of us might resort to assuming that it's going to be positive direction, but you do need to put your negative signs if you're going west, or you do need to put negative signs if you're going south. Right, so you can either, for example, if my answer was right, you have to, when you're going negative, you need to at least tell me that it's that negative direction, or give me the negative sign in front of your answer, so that I know that you're going in the negative direction. I think that should answer it. Obviously, if it doesn't, I'm always here to answer your question. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye.